Hi, I'm Brian, and today it's time to get back into the church. And today I'm looking at their 11th studio album, and it's called Hologram of Baal. Now, that is the back cover, and here's the front cover, and the front cover is missing. But in Australia, this is sort of what the front cover used to look like, or did look like when it came out. And this mask on here is part of Steve Kilbey's personal collection. And I think all around the rest of the world, it came out with sort of a red cover, which I really dig. And I think if they are going to put it out on vinyl, which I've heard whispers that they are, then I would go with the red cover, although that would sort of clash a little bit or be too similar maybe to Forget Yourself. Forget Yourself. Anyway, 1998, as I said, and at the time I was living in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales in Australia. It was pretty cold up there. And I think this album, Hologram of Baal, might be just their coldest again, their coldest ever, going from sort of the subject matter, the situation, and the music as well. Still, I must admit at this point, I was a little bit out on the church. Loved Priest Equals Aura, then Sometime Anywhere. I was good album, didn't totally hold together for me. Same for Magician Among the Spirits. And this was the album Hologram of Baal, which really made me believe in them as the purveyors of classical music, great classic rock and psychedelia, I should say. Anyway, so it's 1998, and the thing that drew me into this album was not actually Hologram of Baal, because as I said, I was a little bit on the church, but it was this bonus disc, which is called Bastard Universe. There we go, Bastard Universe. It was broken up, it was a jam, and it was broken up to 6 stages here, arbitrary stages. I think on the releases overseas it went for 4 stages. But I was thinking this would be absolutely brilliant, hearing the church jam in a studio to see what they come up with. You know, a lot of their songs have come out of jamming, and I was really excited to hear it. A bit more on that later, Bastard Universe a bit more later. But this album was produced by Tim pretty much. Also, there are other members of the band, but they didn't, I don't think, had outside producers in. But the good thing about this album, really, for me, is that we have 4 band members again. And Peter is back after being a guest on Magician Among the Spirits. We now have Tim on drums, Steve on bass, and Marty and Pete on guitars. Hallelujah. That's absolutely fantastic. There's also the inclusion, primarily through Tim's instigation, I think, of all these radiotronics, all of these electrical sounds, which do give us sort of a coldness and austerity to it as well. These sounds are so crucial to, as I said, that coldness, but also a sense of alienation and sort of oral clashing as well. We've also got Linda Neal back on a couple of tracks, and you know, I've thought it many times she should have been a church member. Now, I really love this album. I think it's incredibly good, and I think one of the reasons for that is one of my top 2 church albums of all time is Priest Equals Aura. I think that's an absolute masterpiece. Check out my video on it. But after Priest Equals Aura did come those times of uncertainty with Sometime Anywhere and Magician Among the Spirits. And to me, this is the natural successor to Priest Equals Aura. We've gone from the warmth of the opiate presence at the start, at the beginning, the genesis of the opiate presence. And now one of the band members is a full-on heroin addict. And to me, it's almost like a natural progression in the warmth, the cotton wool feeling of the opiate addiction, and now the heroin addiction. But it's really interesting. But where would I put Hologram of Baal in my church ranking? We might talk about that a bit towards the end as well. Anyway, Hologram of Baal, even coverless. Let's check it out. So let's kick it off with Anaesthesia, which is sort of like that high opium bliss that I've heard so much about. We've got these, the radiotronics, the electric noises, if you will, from William Bowden that start us off. And it's very discombobulating. You sort of don't know where we are. And then we have the acoustic guitar and Steve's vocal, and they seem a million miles away. But then something brilliant happens, and it seems like this massive door has been opened, and the band comes in, comes up in the mix. We've got the bass, we've got the drums, we've got the guitars, etc. It's sort of landing us all back on Earth from being a million miles away. And it sounds absolutely phenomenal. Interesting to see what the guitarist Marty and Pete have done here, because they seem to be getting a dual rhythm going. I've seen this in the footage of the live performances at the time, but you can also hear it where on rhythm, one's sort of taking the halfway up the neck to lower down the neck, and the other's taking the higher reaches of the neck. And it sort of gives us that guitar orchestra. It gives us that what am I looking for? That symphony of sound, which is really absolutely cool. I love the melodic leads that Marty's playing through the verses into the chorus, and then Pete takes sort of the spaghetti western style solo to take us out. And there are also some strings towards the end, which could be the ebow or could be keyboards. Anyway, sublime is the word I'm looking for this song, and there's a lot of sublime music during parts of this album. Absolutely brilliant. However, it doesn't really make me want to go into a narcotic state though. But anesthesia's numbing. Anesthesia's coming to you. I don't know why. It seems like I'm flying on the ground with you.
Remember feeling like I drowned. Anesthesia's numbing. Anesthesia's coming to you. I don't know why. It seems like I'm flying on the ground with
So that takes us then into Ricochet, and it raised the question for me, how many times do the Church use a sort of a bit of a banging rocker as the second song on the album? I mean, Under the Milky Way is an obvious commercial big hit type of thing, but there are many others. I'm thinking about the Come Down from Magician Among the Spirits, A Song in Space, which would be from Forget Yourself, Metropolis, of course, from Gold Afternoon Fix. It's really good. And the drums in the space immediately give us this slithering sort of urgent feel at the start. And the middle section harks back to ancient Egypt. Now, that's just a guess on my part, but I've been to Egypt, so I think my credentials are pretty good in terms of working out what sounds good in Egypt, stays in Egypt, or stays on the church cover, whatever. Anyway, they even checked the name Pharaoh in one of the wonderful backing vocal sections, which might be Tim singing this at the time. And the song finishes with Kilbey just whispering in our ear. I think it's the right ear too. It's a beautiful touch. And he says, so if the ladies ask you over to play, just beware of Ricochet. The first and only song taken from Hologram of Baal is up next. It's called Louisiana. It features Linda Neal on violin, but I think she's a little bit buried in the mix here for my liking. The Radiotronics starts us off, and aren't they wonderful? And this is a song of romance, and it's been pointed out that opium really is quite a romantic drug and fits into with a period of romanticism. You think of Percy Shelley and Lord Byron, etc. And now we have the church doing it. There's an ocean of feedback that starts in this song, or those Radiotronics, which is great. And then that's sort of replaced by these beautiful crystalline rhythm guitar chords. And that's the thing about a lot of the songs in here, which have this fragility or vulnerability. And it's created because of that juxtaposition, I'm pretty sure. And it's that overdrive and feedback, that fury of overdrive and feedback, plus the Radiotronics, which really complements that austere feel. But in terms of the melody and the song itself, you really had me at Empty Birdcage in a Room. What an evocative image that one is. It's got a sense of coldness and austerity to it. I can imagine that the bird escaped and there are no signs of human life within that room, yet in we walk to be alone and to be alienated. I think it's really kind of cool. And it's a lot colder than the Louisiana I went through once, let me tell you about that. But this is a masterful song, and it's a true favorite of mine. Great single. I really love those guitars, which seem like they're being put through a Leslie rotary speaker. Absolutely gorgeous. And it also has this feeling of a mandolin being played. I'm not sure that that's the case. Maybe it's those twin guitars playing their rhythm up and down the neck, but it is perfect for this song. And in terms of the romance, we do get a sense of romance here. this sort of takes me back to that idea from Ricochet. You can't be a lover if you keep on using. What are you using that's stronger than love? Well, in this case, it's interesting. It's morphine, and there's a sense that there's no familiarity in this town, that nobody wants them to return. Maybe that's a sort of a sense of the church as well, you know, playing from the big rooms now down to playing very small rooms. Things have certainly changed. Anyway, The Great Machine is the next song up, and this one is a really interesting song because I suppose more than any other song, well, maybe not every other song, any other song, this one provokes a lot of debate. There are plenty of church fans, I believe, who think that it's kind of pointless. It drifts all over the place without really establishing themselves. There are other people like me who thinks it's a really great sonic experiment, and I love how it's sort of timeless and placeless and all that sort of stuff. And it's very much worth delving into as far as I'm concerned, all the way down to the percussion, to the vocals. And Kilbey's voice here is presented as a very different type of voice, alienated, and it's done through the choice of microphone. You know, I can't do it off the top of my head, but what is the Great Machine? Who were they that turned off the Great Machine? Is it about the end of the world, the end of technology, or total dominant control from political organizations? Maybe I'm putting it a bit too far at the moment, but it's a great machine and it's been turned off. And as a result of that,
Gardens choke with bursting blooms, weddings frozen, melted grooves, chasing you through endless rooms. The day they turned off the great machine.
what do you think? I'll be interested to hear in the comments. That leads us into the next song, which is called No Certainty Attached. Yes, the title of the biography from Robert Dean Leary, the excellent read, well-thumbed read, let me tell you. Now, they're really getting into the Manchester rhythm sound here, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm all for it. There's a veritable wall of guitar sounds, and I love what the bass is doing with its slinky, snake-like, smooth, and silky little runs up and down it. I'm sure this one really would have got the butts moving on the dance floor, in the pub, in the mosh, the church don't have mash pot, the mash pot anyway. But still, as the song ends, the radiotronics kick in, the feedback kicks in, and we move to another level again. And so let's have a little listen to a bit from No Certainty Attached.
Something here should be explained. Slow down, go down. You better take it off. No certainty attached. Slow down, go down. No certainty attached.
I'm going to say the next song, Tranquility, is the most beautiful song that the church have ever written. What do you think about that claim? I mean, there are some beautiful ones. Swan Lake is absolutely beautiful. I love Summer from Forget Yourself. But what are some other ones? And it's interesting, a really interesting choice to start off their most beautiful song, their most ethereal song, with all of this noise. And it underpins the beauty of the guitars and the drums, and it works absolutely superbly to give us this hot and cold, sharp and smooth, this dissonant and this, what's the opposite of dissonant? Melodic sort of feel as well. I think it's absolutely brilliant how it welcomes us into this song, and it takes it away from just being a pretty song. The song's melody is played by Marty all the way through, well, until Steve's vocals come in, and Pete returns with these ethereal strings, which just offer the juxtaposition between that beauty and the noise that's on this song as well. And Steve requests, "Don't go looking for me, leave me in tranquility." Protected by her mantra, following the formula, in the sun thy will be done. Getting a little bit goosebumpish actually, talking about this song. Maybe I should go and have a listen, and maybe you should as well. Maybe we should go and have a listen to it. Let's have a listening moment from Tranquility.
I heard about Maria. She escaped to a beautiful place. Birds of Neo-paradise, the groove in the trees. The name of her town is Tranquility. Protected by a mantra, following the formula. In the sun, thy will be done.
And in Buffalo, it's like the church discovered their alt-rock side, their college radio side as well, which is very facetious, but I think you might know what I mean here. It's listed online by a lot of people as being their favorite song, and I can understand why. It's hard to contradict that. One great review talks about the tambourine is like falling snow, which is really cool. But we're in winter in Buffalo, and my God, that has got to be cold. It's certainly a lot colder than winter in Australia, I'll say that. And then we had the line, "You got to escape the blues, man." And I always rankled at that line, thinking, oh, you know, you're a rock star. How can you have the blues? And blah, 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 blah. And I thought, well, he's not kind of a rock star at the moment. He's got a full-on addiction going, and he's in Buffalo in the middle of winter. So maybe what we should all do, and maybe me to rectify my error there, maybe we should go knock on the door and start up a fire or put another log on the fire, because they need to warm up, that's for sure. And the band do this to a certain extent when they come in for verses and choruses. And there's a change towards the end, which is really beautiful and uplifting. It's a major change, and it gives us this positive, unifying vibe as we get to the end of the song. It's a standout moment for me on a song which I don't consider to be a standout, but the reason for that is there's so many outstanding songs on this album, but I do recognize that it's another one of these pieces into the mosaic, the psychedelic mosaic, that make this album so absolutely wonderful.
Out there the Snow Queen is kidnapping boys. The block of ice heart tunes out the noise, and soft in the bedroom, her eyes indigo. Sleeping in the winter, in Buffalo.
So the next song up, This Is It, is probably the most controversial or talked about or provocative song on the album, and it's an absolute masterpiece. It's the sort of song, I mean, the church often talk about creating songs out of jamming and more on Bastard Universe towards the end, but it's the sort of song which I really feel could have come out of a jam. I think there are only 2 chords in it, but there's so much depth within the song provided by the guitars and the production that the space of it is so enormous. I never knew this song was about Michael Hutchence and Michael Hutchence's unfortunate death until it was pointed out to me. But there's great fear and tension with this song, which really adds to its complexity. And it's the anonymity of the celebrity which I think works enormously for me. But then when you find out that it's Michael Hutchence he's talking about, it's like, ugh. Speaking of bastards, to me it's like the bastard son from Pre-Sequels, or what's the name of the song? Chaos. I've always linked Chaos and This Is It together. There's a military sort of style, funereal sort of drum beat that's supplied by Tim, and then the beautiful guitar line, do, do, do. My favorite moment by far in this song is that guitar chord. I can't work out exactly what it is. Please, if you can show me how to play it, or just give me the chord shape in the comments, I'd be really thrilled. Love these lyrics. Watching things you put up start to crash, even though you've got a fistful of cash. Watching the future, it bursts on through. I was one of the guys that used to envy you. And you can't control Father Time here. Hutchence is getting older, and doesn't have such adulation from youth and from young people as that he used to. And then that ridiculous pun at the end about he came and he went. I'm a bit cringy on that one. I think another outstanding, surprising fact about this song is it goes for 4 minutes 24. I've always thought it was much longer, and I've always thought it was much bigger in terms of its complexity, its scope, and its time. Anyway, let's have a listen to that chord and see if it can bedoggle me or bamboozle me just one more time or 2 more times. We'll see how it goes. This is it.
He had a room in the best part of town. He got a chuckle on his eye down, staring out over roofs at the cross. Suppose he must have felt somewhat at loss. This is it. Oh, this is it. This is it. Oh, baby, this is it.
The Radiotronics again appear on the next song, which is called Another Earth. And this is an interesting one. It's like you're on the fence, like you've got this butt clench on the fence, and on the right-hand side, your butt cheeks holding you on to that 1960s maybe jingle jangle feel. But the other butt clench we've got going, is sort of on alt 90s alternative pop. It doesn't grab me though, although I do really like the special effects that are in the background on this song. I think it's perfectly acceptable, and it's a really enjoyable track, and maybe it is exactly what we needed after This Is It. Some lyrics, very upbeat and positive as well. She wants the moon and stars. She wants the world to end. What did I say? They were upbeat and positive. Now the chorus, she wants the world to end. No, the chorus sound is the melody, not the melody. Yes, the melody and the music gives us this up-tempo, this very pleasant sound, this positive, uplifting vibe, but maybe the words don't. She wants the moon and stars. Greedy, but she wants them. But she wants the world to end. She just wants to go to the moon and stars. She wants some time and space, and she wants another Earth. Cool idea. Really ties for me into a bit of the old Matt Johnson, if you can't change your world, change yourself. And you can't change yourself, and change your world. I'm getting myself into all sorts of trouble. It started with a butt clench, I tell you. A butt clench got me in trouble, got me in deep. So will it get me out? Let's have a listen to a bit of that Another Earth song. I feel like waving goodbye now. Just going to sink into my hole and go, please let me out someday. I haven't been that terrible, have I? Well, anyway, what do? You go to another Earth, because that's what I want, another Earth. This is going to be the first thing cut. Anyway.
At the end of the day, when the light is so soft, you take off your mask. See, she's never around. She wants the moon and stars. She wants the world to end.
It's just occurred to me that before, when I asked for suggestions as to what could be the most beautiful church song of all time, that many of you might have thought, just click a few songs forward and we get to the next song and the last song on the album, which is called Glowworm, about Steve Kilbey's daughters and his relationship and his need for them. The song also features Linda Neal playing violin in the middle instrumental section, which I absolutely love. Musically, this song reminds me a lot of Jack Frost's song Providence, which Steve Kilbey still plays to this day when he's doing his solo live shows. Again, it is a quite beautiful song, and I think if I was going to place it in a genre, it would probably be post-nursery rhyme. Well, we've had post-punk, post-rock, post this, post that. Why not post-nursery rhyme? And it is a beautiful way to go out, and some would say, I'm sure, that it's the perfect way to end this album and the perfect way to end a church album.
You're so easy to love, so easy to be around. Sleep so sweet with your tiny sleeping sound. Hold you in my arms, I see you in my mind. I need you every day, I need you every night. You're so easy to love, you're so easy to...
And of course, it'd be remiss if I didn't briefly talk about Bastard Universe. There it is in the 6 stages. And this really, as I said before, got me so excited. 1 jam, 6 tracks. Couldn't wait to hear it. I thought, oh, we're going to hear the makings of a masterpiece. Recorded in the studio after a particularly wonderful gig the night before. And you know what? It's absolutely a complete letdown. It sounded like a band come into the rehearsal room, pick up a few instruments and just jam for an hour. And, you know, that's okay. You get a sense of what they were doing in the rehearsal room. But anybody like me and like you, perhaps, who's picked up an instrument and had a psychedelic jam for an hour at the end of it gone, that was good, wasn't it? Anybody who's done that sort of knows what to expect here. I don't think there were any sort of songs that were ever going to come out of this jam, but I could be wrong. I would love to be wrong. Maybe it would have been better given the right psychoacoustics. That could have been something for me to be listening to, but I thought, interestingly enough, I lent this to a friend of mine trying to get them into the church, and I knew they were into long extended psychedelic jams, and I said, you've got to listen to this one. You've got to get into that one. You'll love it, mate. You'll love it. Anyway, 2 weeks later when I came to get the CD back from him, he said, yeah, the jamming was okay, but why didn't you tell me how brilliant the album was? And he got into the album rather than the jamming, and that was his entry point to the church. So at the beginning, I did talk very briefly about where would I rank this album. Now, to me, thinking about a top 5, number 1 and number 2 are absolutely locked in. I'm not sure in which order, but if you've watched my channel before, you know my love of the Blurred Crusade and Priest Equals Aura. And then to me, there are 4 others, which are trying to get into that top 5. And to me, Hologram of Baal is either 5th or 6th. And there's another one coming up very soon, and I think the other ones are already in there. But what are your top 5s? Would you put Hologram of Baal in your top 5? It's an album that does not disappoint. It's an album that is wonderful, and most importantly, it gives optimism and joy, particularly back in that year, that maybe the church were just going to keep on going and producing more of that music we love so much. I hope you're doing really well, and I really appreciate you watching this video. But until next time, it's bye now.